I've been staring at this blank page for hours, trying to find the right words to begin. How do you start telling a story that destroyed everything you thought you knew about your family? My name is Rachel Bennett, and 6 months ago I discovered a truth that changed my life forever. It started with Mom's death, a rainy night, a slippery road, and a tragic accident that took her from us too soon. We live in Sweet Creek, Montana, where the mountains meet the plains, and everybody knows everybody else's business, or at least they think they do. I was working as a veterinary technician in Billings when I got the call. Dad's voice was hollow when he told me about the accident. I drove home that night through the same rain that had taken Mom's life, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Our farmhouse looked exactly as it had when I left for college 7 years ago. Dad still worked the same acres his father had worked before him. My younger sister Jessica was finishing her senior year of high school. Everything seemed normal except for the gaping hole Mom's absence left in our lives. The first few days after the funeral were a blur of casseroles brought by neighbors and relatives offering awkward condolences. Jessica clung to me like she had when she was little, her blue eyes, so different from my brown ones, constantly filled with tears. Dad threw himself into farm work, barely speaking. I found Mom's journal while cleaning out her closet. It was hidden in an old shoebox, beneath some photographs and letters. I shouldn't have read it. Some truths are better left buried. But I did read it, and nothing has been the same since. The first entries were ordinary enough. Mom writing about her days, her worries about me being away at college, her pride in Jessica's achievements. Then came the entries from 7 years ago, when Grandpa George had his stroke. Mom moved into the old farmhouse to care for him while Dad managed the farm. Jessica was 11 then, staying with our aunt in Billings to finish the school year. I was in my second year of college. What happened during those months changed our family forever. The journal entries became more personal, more disturbing. Mom wrote about feeling lonely, about Grandpa George's recovery, about conversations that grew increasingly intimate. Then came the entry that made my blood run cold. What have I done, George and I? I can't even write it down. William can never know. No one can ever know. But I think I'm pregnant. I sat on my childhood bedroom floor, reading entry after entry as Mom's secret affair, with her father-in-law unfolded in these pages. The pregnancy, the decision to pass the baby off as William's, the web of lies that followed. Jessica. My little sister Jessica was actually my aunt, born from a relationship so forbidden it made me sick to think about it. I looked at the family photos on my wall differently now. Jessica's blue eyes, Grandpa George's eyes, her blonde hair when the rest of us were dark. All these years, we'd said she took after our grandmother, but now I knew the truth. The next few entries detailed Mom's guilt, her fear of discovery, her determination to protect Jessica from the truth. Grandpa George moved to the retirement home in Billings shortly after Jessica was born, only visiting on holidays. Now I understood why. I spent days carrying this knowledge around, watching Jessica help Dad with the farm chores, seeing Grandpa George at family dinners, knowing this terrible secret. Every interaction felt tainted, every memory questioned. One evening, about 2 weeks after finding the journal, I drove out to the retirement home to confront Grandpa George. He was sitting in his usual spot by the window, looking out at the mountains. "I found Mom's journal," I said without preamble. He didn't turn around. I wondered when someone would find it. "How could you? She was your daughter-in-law." "Jessica is your granddaughter. Except she isn't, is she?" He finally looked at me, his blue eyes, Jessica's eyes, filled with tears. "Rachel, you don't understand what it was like. After the stroke, I couldn't do anything for myself. Mary was there every day, helping me, talking to me. I was lonely, she was lonely." "Stop," I cut him off. "I don't want to hear excuses." "What are you going to do?" he asked quietly. That was the question I'd been wrestling with. Did Jessica deserve to know the truth about her parentage? Did Dad need to know about Mom's betrayal now that she was gone? Would the truth do more harm than good? I spent countless nights driving the back roads around Sweet Creek, trying to decide what to do. I watched Jessica graduate high school, accepted her tearful hugs as she talked about how much she missed Mom, knowing I held a secret that could destroy her world. Dad noticed my distraction. "You've been different since the funeral," he said one evening as we sat on the porch. "I know you miss her. We all do." If only he knew the real reason for my distance. I looked at my father, this good man who had worked so hard for our family, who had loved Mom so completely, who had no idea that his youngest daughter was actually his sister. The weight of the secret affected every aspect of my life. I started making excuses to avoid family gatherings. I couldn't look at Grandpa George without feeling rage. Every time Jessica called me sis, I felt like a fraud. Then came the day Jessica found me crying in Mom's old sewing room. She sat beside me, took my hand, and said, "Sometimes I feel like there's something Mom never told me, like there was a part of her she kept hidden." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I don't know exactly, just." Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me with this sad expression, and the way Grandpa George always seemed uncomfortable around me after Grandma died. Did you ever notice that? I looked at my sister, no, my aunt, and saw the questions in her eyes. She was 18 now, legally an adult. Did she have a right to know the truth about herself? That night, I made a decision. I burned Mom's journal in the old fire pit behind the house, watching the pages curl and blacken, taking their secrets with them. Some truths are too destructive, some secrets too costly to reveal. Instead of telling Jessica everything, I started spending more time with her. We talked about Mom, sharing memories, keeping her alive in our hearts. I watched her begin community college, start dating, plan her future, all while carrying the knowledge that her entire life was built on a lie. Grandpa George passed away 3 months after I found the journal. At his funeral, I watched Jessica cry for her grandfather, never knowing he was actually her father. Dad held us both, grieving for his father, unaware of the final betrayal. Sometimes I wonder if Mom wanted the truth to come out by leaving that journal where it could be found. Maybe she needed someone to know, to understand the burden she'd carried all those years. Or maybe she never meant for anyone to find it, and I've betrayed her by reading it at all. Life in Sweet Creek goes on. Dad's talking about selling some of the farmland, maybe taking a vacation for the first time in years. Jessica's thinking about transferring to a 4-year college next fall. I've moved back to Billings but come home every weekend, unable to completely step away from this family I need to protect. The truth is a heavy thing. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, the weight of this secret crushing my chest. I see Mom in my dreams, alternately begging me to keep her secret and pleading with me to tell the truth. I see Jessica's face, innocent and trusting, never suspecting the reality of her birth. Last week, Jessica showed me her college application essays. She wrote about Mom, about growing up on the farm, about the strength of family bonds. "I am who I am because of them," she wrote. "My mom, my dad, my sister, they shaped me into the person I've become." Reading those words, I knew I'd made the right choice. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just destroys everything good and leaves nothing in its place. Sometimes love means carrying the weight of secrets so others don't have to. Mom made her choices, right or wrong, and lived with them until the end. Now I'm making mine. Every time I see Jessica smile, every time I hear her laugh, I know that protecting her from this truth is the greatest act of love I can offer. They say secrets have a way of coming out eventually. Maybe someday, long after I'm gone, someone else will find another diary, another letter, another piece of evidence that unravels this carefully protected lie. But for now, I'll carry this burden alone. Because that's what family does. We protect each other, even from the truth. We love each other, even knowing the worst. We go on carrying our secrets like stones in our pockets, weighing us down but keeping us grounded. And maybe that's the real legacy Mom left me. Not just the truth about Jessica, but the understanding that love sometimes means making impossible choices. That family isn't just about blood and birth, but about the choices we make every day to protect the ones we love. So I'll keep this secret, carry this weight, protect this family. Because in the end, that's all we really have, each other, and the love that binds us together, no matter what lies beneath the surface. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.